Deciding on whether to buy a business or start a business, today we'll talk about the pros and cons of either side. Hi, I'm Sonia Pedowick, your host of the Catalyst podcast. I'm a small business owner here. I founded Torian Consulting 9 years ago, an IT staffing firm here in Las Vegas. And during pandemic, I started the Catalyst Mastermind Collaborative, a small business mastermind that serves the small business community. I'll be coming to you twice a week, once just to talk about business ownership and what a mastermind group is, and once a week with a small business owner who will share their stories about lessons learned, how they started their businesses, share their knowledge with you, and all about the small business community and networking here in the Las Vegas market. So let's get into it. I came into business ownership in maybe somewhat of a non-traditional way. I went to work for a company with the promise that I would earn ownership by producing. And so I would be told if I hit certain goals, I would get equity. And then, of course, being the very competitive salesperson and recruiter that I am, I would exceed those goals and then not get the equity that I was promised. And this went on for some time. And I learned a lot of lessons. While I did have a lot of email communication and certain things in writing, we never had a binding contract. And so some of those things came back to bite me in the you know what. And I had to really do some soul searching on what I wanted to do in order to either buy my business or blow it up and start on my own. So the journey to becoming a business owner was, I would say, maybe somewhat of a non-traditional one. Once I figured out that the person I was working for wasn't going to give me equity the way that he had promised, which was if I produced, I would get equity based on my production, I decided to seek out the help of other business owners. And I found a mastermind room that I could sit in and learn from other business owners that had been through buyouts, divestitures, all sorts of different mergers and acquisitions, and learn from them how to go about acquiring my business. And I had told them that they had asked me basically how long it would take me to learn this process. And I said, I don't know, maybe 9 months. And so over the course of 9 months, I would go into this mastermind meeting and I would learn as much as I could about the existing business that I was working for and whether or not I wanted to buy it out or start my own. And so every month I would go in and review contracts, review how to start a business. I would actually act as if I was starting the business by designing what the company name was, what the logo was. I would go through that full-fledged exercise. So by the time the end of 9 months came, I was all ready to sit down and say, here's an offer to the business owner, present him with a buyout agreement, and execute and become the owner of my business. So having the money to buy out a business, that's a very tricky situation because really the value of the business, what I came to learn is what someone's willing to pay for it. And so there's lots of different ways to go about doing that. You can have a professional valuation done. There's lots of companies out there that will evaluate your business based on EBITDA, and they go through a whole exercise to do that. I did take steps to do that. And in the end, there was a ton of negotiation that went back and forth, and I was willing to maybe at the time overpay a little bit for the business than maybe it was really worth on paper because I knew what I could grow this business to become. And again, it's a negotiation between two people. And a lot of times, what I learned through that journey is sometimes business decisions are either business decisions or emotional decisions. I think mine was probably 60-40. Maybe in hindsight, I paid a little bit more for my business at the time than I should have. But in the end, I was able to grow that business in 3 years to a $5 million business. So I think I'll take that as a win. The decision to buy my particular business versus starting my own was I had worked for this business for a number of years. So in the Las Vegas market, I was the brand. I was the face of the business, the headquarters. This was a division of the business and the headquarters was out of California. So I really had to weigh out all the existing contracts and MSAs and current purchase orders that I had here. Was it better to buy the business and carry those purchase orders over to my business that I was buying? I was winding down the business that I bought and winding up the one I was starting, or just walk away and start brand new from scratch with zero revenue. In the end, buying the business and, borrowing from my 401k and my house and the different things that we did in order to buy the business made better sense because I had recurring revenue coming in. I could buy those invoices, buy those collectibles, and have a runway to actually launch the business off. For me at that time, that was the best decision. Others might just say, hey, I'm starting from scratch with zero revenue, 0 contracts on the books and then try to go and build a business from scratch. I wanted what I had built as far as my brand and my sales, my reputation here. I wanted to buy that and continue that on. I think some of the questions that you can ask whether you should start or buy is make sure you have all the information. I did a deep dive as far as I could into financials. I did a deep dive into, the fight I wanted to fight for the business. I just tried to ask as many questions as I could. And being in a mastermind really helped because working with the other business owners that had been through buyouts, that had been through divestitures, mergers and acquisitions, they were the ones that were really every month were asking me, did you think of this? Did you think of that? Have you thought of this? Have you asked this? Have you looked at this? And really looking under the covers as best as I could in that situation to make myself fully aware of any blind spots I might be missing. I think it's important to just write everything down, to have a sounding board like a mastermind, a board of directors to bounce all of those ideas off of to make sure that you're making it. Every decision in buying a business and having a business is emotional. Anyone who says like it's not an emotional decision is silly because if you are buying something, it means something to you. But trying to get to the best business decision and making those decisions very succinctly of a clear mind with as much this much, I guess, information and power as you can will help you have the clarity that you need to be able to do that. So it is interesting because I bought my IT recruiting company, which is 9 years old today. So that one I bought because I had been running the business. I had the brand awareness. I had the contracts already running. I had the opportunity to carry over recurring revenue. Catalyst Mastermind, I started during pandemic really because I was in a mastermind. I was leading it with another person and that person just shut it down. She owned it. She shut it down. I wanted to keep the community. And so at that point, I had the opportunity to look at it and be like, how do I continue this? How do I keep this community of business owners together? How can I keep the conversations going, especially in pandemic, especially when people needed that connection point to talk about IDOL, PPP, mental health, everything that was happening in the world. If you think back to what was going on between March of 2020 and when I started Catalyst in August of 2020, we as business owners needed that community, even if it was online. I was able to start that business just by building a community of people. I registered with Silver Flume, which is our local Secretary of State. I just started a business and I was off and running. Whether I enjoyed the Torian hiring, starting a business process or Catalyst more is it's so different because I was at two very different stages of my life. I was fighting for something that I thought I had earned and deserved and wanted so badly with Torian. That was something that I was told, if you do this, you'll get this. And at that point, it was like, I want this so bad. I built it here. I felt like this was my life. I was everything about me is Torian and recruiting, and I still love it to this day. Fast forward, I found this second passion. Somebody had, when I was going through buying Torian, I fell in love with the mastermind concept. I fell in love with coaching. I fell in love with Think and Grow Rich. And so I had this in me now, like this taste of like helping other people and paying it forward. And wow, could I make a business out of that? Could I make a business out of building a community of other business owners and somehow pay it forward what other people did for me? And that was like, wait a minute, I could have two businesses that feed two different purposes, helping people find their careers, helping clients solve problems when it comes to hiring. And now I can help small businesses build liberty and legacy in their business. I could have potentially have two businesses that serve this amazing purpose. They're just two totally different experiences. There's some differences between buying like a standalone business and buying a franchise. Within a franchise model, you're buying into an organization that has a playbook, really. If you buy, say, like a Dunkin' Donuts, they're going to give you a model that you have to follow. You're subscribing to their services, to their business model, then promising to adhere to how they want you to do business, how they want you to have the storefront look, how they want you to serve and hire people. And you're buying into that, which comes with a ton of support and a ton of marketing, all of those things. But they own you, you own them, and it's done in a way that is part of their franchise model. Buying a standalone business is different. There's to some people there's a lot more autonomy. You're not maybe restricted by, say, the guidelines or bylaws of a franchise, and you have more freedom to actually do what you want. You could change the color of the building. You can decide that you want purple donuts instead of cream donuts. It's different in that regard that you have a lot more autonomy. And if you are going to buy into a franchise, you really need to know that you have to understand what your obligation is as a franchisee and what you need to meet those criteria every year and be willing to follow those rules. So if you're tuning in now and you're going, what should I do? Should I start a business? Should I buy a business? What should I do? I think first and foremost, you should talk to a coach. You should talk to somebody and flesh out your idea. Have you already started like a little side hustle? Do you have a business concept? Do you have some money set aside to do it? What do you think running a business entails? What support do you have? Are you working a full-time job and you're just wanting to start a side hustle? Like, where are you on the risk scale? I'm really high. I'm willing to like roll the dice and do whatever. Some people aren't that way. They're just not cut that way. And that's fine. The world needs both of us. I think sitting down and having a conversation and starting with the basics, whether it's a business plan, a conversation around what do I need to do? What support do I have? Am I selling a product? Am I selling a service? And then working with a coach or a mastermind to then launch that business in a very succinct and thoughtful and planned out way is probably the best way that you'll have the most success, because then you'll be surrounded by a community possibly of other people who are few steps ahead, few steps behind you that will hold you accountable and help you achieve what it is you're setting out to. If you like what you saw today on the Catalyst podcast, make sure you subscribe to our show, like it, and share it with someone who you think might also find value.